that morning I knew there was something not quite right. A little heaviness in my arms, the upper arms. Because normally I'd take an aspirin before I'd leave, and then that morning something wasn't quite right, so I took 2 aspirin. Made it to work, sat down on a chair, and never got a chance to get my coffee. And that's the last I remember.
And when I got back there, he was laying flat on the floor. I knew he was in trouble. He was blue to the point of almost purple. So I panicked and went to the phone and called 911.
Between 8:15 and 8:30, I heard an ambulance page to Town and Country TV and Appliance. When I got there, I grabbed my first aid kit and my AED, and Mike's wife, Ilene, met me at the door, and I asked her who it was, and she responded by saying, "I don't think he's breathing." And so I went right to the back room, and I saw Mike laying there. There was a lot of blood on the floor under his head, and I applied the pads from the AED, administered the shock, and it worked. I mean, Mike jumped.
1.
I have never felt so helpless in my life. I mean, I stood there and I knew he was in trouble, and it was such a helpless feeling I've never experienced before.
The ambulance crew arrived about the same time. They packaged him for transport, put him in the ambulance, and they left.
Mr. Schwarz arrived alert, talking to us, extremely combative, which is not uncommon. We hooked him up to the monitor and did a stat 12 lead EKG, which tells us if there's been any arrhythmia damage to the heart.
Very shortly after he arrived, he again developed the ventricular tachycardia, which is a life-threatening rhythm and required shock to restore a normal rhythm.
Recharge up to 200.
The heart is basically doing nothing at that point and will soon then go to what many people know or hear of as a flat line.
We ended up doing that, I think, 6 times while he was in the emergency department.
Are we doing MedFlight?
We recognized very early that this was an acute heart attack that would need to be transferred to where they could do the cardiac catheterization, and contacted MedFlight and the cardiologists at St. Mary's to arrange that transfer.
When MedFlight arrived, I was scared. I knew his color. I knew things were not good, and that's the longest, I think, few minutes in my life.
Because he had fallen off of a stool and had to be resuscitated. We did not know if he may have had a head injury, so that required that he had to go for a CAT scan to make sure that it would be safe to proceed with the balloon angioplasty.
I was not at St. Mary's 10 minutes before they said it's over. He'll be out and you'll be able to see him.
Well, as you start to wake up and the first thing you see is your kids and your family, and all of a sudden everybody's standing there and they're, whoa, what the heck's going on? And then it hits you as to what happened, they tell you.
When they came out and told us that surgery had gone so well, I think I was just going in circles. I was emotionally trying to keep strong for, I don't know, myself, him, the girls, my family, and it was just a big emotional rush.
The Richland Center Hospital made a huge difference in the outcome of Mr. Schwarz, and he was able to walk out of here, go back to his community and his wife and his family, and that's what this is all about.
I'm pretty grateful for it. If it wouldn't have been there, I wouldn't be here, because I didn't have much time. You know, and I'm very grateful to the Richland Hospital for that.
Without the Richland Center Hospital, Mike would not be here today. There's no question in my mind. They were there when he needed help.
I met Dan actually through his wife, and she was a little concerned about him, like all good wives are, and so he came in for his physical, and we signed him up for his colonoscopy.
Dr. Dickman had written a letter describing that he would like to have us come and talk to him after he had reviewed the colonoscopy. Of course, we were anxious because we had heard that if you get called in, that there's got to be some bad news.
Dan was diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer, which requires that you begin immediate intervention.
I think we were in shock because when he said that it was a polyp and he said it was small, then I was encouraged, you know.
While it was unexpected, I still had to accept it because it was part of something that I didn't have any control over.
Half the battle with breaking cancer is finding out that there is something to do about it and what exactly it is.
Once he was a go for chemo, and we use that term loosely, but a go means that they qualify, that their count is high enough so that they would be able to fight off infection, because chemo can lower your ability to fight infection to such a life-threatening level.
All of the things that I had read about it were rather scary. Fortunately, the nurses there, like Mary Jo and Sue and Dorothy and Jane and Kathy, were all very kind.
You see patients that go through their cycles and they'll get their chemotherapy and they'll feel really bad for about a week or so, and then they feel really good, and then you give them the chemotherapy again, and then they feel really bad again. So it kind of cycles like that.
The fact that I was weaker, that made a change in me too. You know, the part of the mental thing is realizing that other people are trying to do the best that they can to help you.
The moment where Dan was really needing some help was in the middle of his chemotherapy. He was pretty sick from it. Just, you can tell when a person really needs help. Okay, it's not so much, you know, relying on lab tests, and it's just how they look, and you can just kind of tell after years of experience they need some intervention, otherwise things could really go downhill.
Dan had a very unique ability to be positive with every step of his path. Extremely positive man. So it was very easy to provide hope, because hope was always there for him.
Being able to see Dan walk out of here on the last day of his treatment was a very heartwarming feeling for all of us nurses, and it's always a privilege for us to complete that journey with them.
It seemed like everyone was kind of celebrating along with me that we had made it this far. I actually had tears in my eyes, and it was a step that I had taken. It was like I'd made it this far, and I can go further now too. I'm so happy that Richland Hospital is here and that we have that type of facility, and the people. That's what really makes the difference.